it's Laurie at Sew Right Sewing Machines, and today we're going to take a look at a stitch that people want to achieve without having to go through the effort of hand stitching, and that's the hand look quilting stitch. I'm not knocking hand sewing because there's a reason for it and there's comfort and ease with that, but let's say you want to achieve a consistent look using a sewing machine to do that. So to take the guesswork out of it, we're going to go here and I'm going to show you how to do that on the Viking Ruby. So what I've done prior to us meeting is I have chosen a couple of threads. A 30 weight sulky blendable, which, believe it or not, I'm going to put in the bobbin. So I pre-wound my bobbin. And a monofilament / nylon thread. And I've got a nice Aurifil monofilament thread here. And that's going to go in our upper thread. So now I'm going to thread the machine. Since I've got this bobbin already set up, I'm going to just put it in its bobbin case, making sure the H is facing up, putting it into the tensions, and I'm going to close the door once I've got this whole machine threaded. So I've got my little bobbin door here. Okay. Monofilament thread is very fine, so just be careful as you sew it because you could lose sight of it. And I'm going to use both of these little notchy areas here just to secure it, and I'm going to thread the machine accordingly. Okay, I nailed that. What's nice with this machine is it's got a self-threader. So it is so fine that it's almost imperceptible. I can make sure that I've got my threading going a-okay. Let's use a self-threader. I'm going to put it down and up to make sure I'm in the correct needle position. And we're going to use a self-threader. Here we go. Great. Okay, I've got it. It's so hard to see, but I got it. Okay, I'm going to make a longer tail, so I'm going to put my presser foot up. Just so I make sure I've got enough length, because I want to bring that bobbin thread up. Okay, so I'm going to go needle down, needle up, and here we go. We've got our perfect little loop. Pick up the presser foot, and I'm going to put them both under here. I'm going to make my little long tail here. Okay, I have threaded the needles. I've put the bobbin in the right position in the bobbin case. Now let's make sure I've got the stitch set up in the menu. So when we turn on the machine, we have this menu popping up, and I chose the quilting function after I hit start new. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go, let's try to see what happens if I go to straight stitch quilting, what pops up. Okay, we're in the utility stitch menu, which does not have that hand look stitch in it. So I'm going to go to my carousel of stitches, and I'm going to choose the D menu. All right, I believe stitch number 2 is a hand look stitch. I said I believe, but let's make sure that it's really the case. So I'm going to hit the question mark, and when it turns blue, I'm going to hit the stitch I want. Let's do that again. And it is the hand look stitch. So that is the stitch that imitates hand quilting, all right? Now that I know that's the case, I'm going to use the prompt and use it. So now we actually see how the stitch looks prior to us our stitching it out. So we're going to run a little sample on that stitch to see how it looks, and then I can make some adjustments based on it. Okay, it says we can use a piecing foot on the machine, but I've got the A foot on. I'm just playing right now. If we want to, we could use it, but let's try it with this. You could also probably use a walking foot with that stitch as well, but let's try it out with this A foot. Okay, let's see what happens when we stitch this out. I'm going to put the foot down, and I'm going to put my needle down. Let's see what happens. What you're going to see is the stitch is going to take a few stitches and move back and forth, and then proceed. I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a look at what we've done here, and then I can play with it if I want to. Okay, so this is the look. So you're going to see that the bobbin thread is what's being pulled up here, and that you'll see that very thin thread is actually the monofilament thread on the upper needle. if we flip the work over, it's going to look like just a running stitch. Let's experiment and see if we change the stitch length if something happens. So I'm going to go to stitch length here, and I'm going to bump it up to this and see if we see any discernible difference. Let's see if we can make the stitch a little longer. We can also experiment with the upper thread tension to see if that affects it at all. Slightly longer, but not much of a difference. I see the stitch length here on the upper thread spacing a little bit farther apart. I might like the look of it closer together. I'm just wondering though, out of curiosity, what would happen if I change the upper thread tension a tad and see if that bobbin thread gets pulled up differently. Again, a lot of this is experimentation based on the thickness of your quilt or the fabric that you're sewing on. So let's bump up the thread tension. Let's make sure that's thread tension. Okay. When I had toggled it down, it changed the presser foot tension. We are properly now in upper thread tension. So let's see what happens. I'm going to just do it to 6, like this. 6.8, just to see. Hopefully it won't distort our stitch too much when we try that. If not, we can always go back to our default setting. It did get a little bit bigger. Let's see how it affected the back. These are very nuanced differences, so I would play with it as well. I'm sorry, we've got lots of loose threads back here. But this was our latest one that we did. While I was sewing the sample out, I noticed a little bit of puckering. And I was wondering, is it the stitch? Is it the thickness of my batting? What could cause all of that? So rather than experimenting with the stitch tension, I thought maybe we could explore maybe looking at the presser foot pressure. How much pressure is exerted on the fabric to feed it? So I'm thinking we had a little too much oomph on that presser foot. So what I do is this toggles up and down. Up is thread tension. If I go down, you see the presser foot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the presser foot tension, or not tension, pressure. So I'm going to just toggle down to 5. Let's see how that goes. Okay. All right. I kept that thread tension up and I reduced the pressure, and I'm getting more of the look I want. It's smoother, and I'm actually seeing more of that bobbin thread coming out. So I think I like that. So I'll make notes on my machine or save it in the save program in my machine. And then I can use that for this type of batting and this type of fabric combination. So now that we're done with creating our quilting look, we've got all these loose threads. So what I would be conscientious of, or conscious of doing, is making sure I keep my tails at least 4 inches long, and then sewing all this into the batting. So let's look at the back side. Oh my goodness. So what I would do is have both of my upper and lower threads all on one layer of fabric. So my monofilament and my bobbin thread will be all on one layer. I'm going to take my self-threading needles, which are easy to use, put it through there so I don't have to thread it manually with my eye, but there's a little slit in each of them to help me thread it. Tie a little knot, secure it, pull it through the batting, and then clip it, and then we're good to go. If there's way too many, I would do it as I go so that it doesn't seem to be an overwhelming task near the end of your quilting. All right, so This is just an example of what the hand look can be. You can use it on a quilt or any type of decorative thing where you have layers and layers of things to create a nice decorative hand look appearance on your work. Thanks for watching. I hope you experiment and try out some of these techniques on your next quilting project. Bye.